here's a lesson that I want to go through with you on subtracting polynomials. So if you forgot how the lesson went in class, maybe rewatching this video will help you to remember how to go about doing that. So subtracting polynomials, that requires an extra step on top, as compared to simply adding the polynomials together. So I want to point out the differences and help you out with that. All right, so when I look at this, I can see that I have this first part in the brackets, and so 8x plus 4, but then I'm subtracting, not just 3x, I'm subtracting everything in this second bracket. So it's almost like I need to take this negative, or the subtraction, and apply it to every part in the second bracket. So let me show you how to simplify this in order to get our final simplified polynomial. So I find that the first set of brackets really don't need to be there. So I'm going to just get rid of them. But now is where we need to pay extra close attention. If this were an adding sign here, and a plus sign, then I would just drop the brackets on both of these polynomials. But I can't do that in this case because it's a subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 3x. And so that gives me minus 3x. And now I'm going to subtract positive 7. So when I subtract positive 7, I'm really just subtracting 7. Now, an alternate way to think about this is to think about me distributing this negative to both of these terms. So I can say, well, a negative times a positive gives me a negative. A negative times a positive gives me a negative again. That is just a different way of thinking about the problem, but both ways are perfectly fine. So choose whichever that you prefer. But now I also have some like terms that I can group and combine. So just don't forget that the sign in front of the term tells you whether you're adding or subtracting it from another term, right? So in this first case, I can see that I have 8x take away 3x. Grouping my x terms. I also have positive 4, and then I'm going to take away 7. So I have plus 4 minus 7. So again, it's always a good idea to, if you're unsure about integers, to double check your answer, particularly on quizzes or tests, to make sure that you've done the process properly. So 8x's take away 3x's give me 5x's. Now I have positive 4 take away 7. It's going to drop me below the 0, and I'm going to end up with minus 3. And now I'm left with an x term, and I'm left with a negative 3, and so I can't combine them because, of course, they are not like terms. So again, we want to rewrite the expression to subtract each term in the second set of brackets, the second polynomial. So in this case, in this first example, I've asked you to simplify the questions below. So let's take a look at that. So in my first example here, I have 5a minus 2. And again, you can always drop the first set of brackets. It's the second set that you need to be a little bit careful about in subtraction. So that means I'm subtracting this whole second term. So I need to take that into account when I rewrite this, taking that negative and distributing it. So this really means I'm taking away a. So I'm going to rewrite that below, take away a. But now is the tricky part. But now I'm taking away negative 8, right? Another way to think about this is if I have a negative times a negative, that's going to give me a positive, right? 8. Now I'm ready to group and to simplify. So I have 5a minus an a. Remember, there's an imaginary one there. It's not really imaginary. It's actually there. We just understand it to be there without writing it. 5a take away an a will leave me with 4a. And now I have this negative 2 plus 8. So if I'm at negative 2 and I add 8 to that, that means I'm at positive 6. And now I'm done. I can't add an a an unlike term. Cannot simplify anymore. Let's look at the next example. So again, this looks a little daunting. It's really not so bad. I can see in here that there are terms that I can combine and ones that I can't. But let's deal with the brackets first. So immediately my eye goes to the fact that there's a negative sign in between these two. So I'm subtracting this whole second bracket from the first bracket. So the whole second polynomial from the first one. So the first polynomial, I'm going to drop those brackets. They don't really need to be there. But now I need to consider this second subtraction. So this means I'm subtracting 4y squared. Next, I'm going to subtract negative 5. Well, subtracting a negative is the same as adding. I can also think of this as a negative times a negative, and that gives me a positive 5y. And then lastly, I have my negative times a positive 1. So negative times positive 1 will give me a negative 1. Now again, I can group my like terms. So I have 2y squared, take away 4y squared. I'm going to start this over on the side over here because I'm running out of room. So if I say that, I've got 2y squared, take away 4y squared, grouping them together. Next, I've got 6y and positive 5y. So I'm going to group those together. So plus 6y plus 5y. And lastly, I've got negative 3 and negative 1. And we're going to group those together. So negative 3 minus 1 more. So those are those terms. So let's get going. So 2y squared, take away 4y squared will leave me negative 2y squared. 6y plus 5y gives me positive 11y. And then negative 3, take away 1 more, will give me negative 4. And now I can't simplify anymore. Remember that a y squared cannot be added to y. The exponents need to be the same in order to combine those terms together.